Hi everyone, lovely to see you all. I'm Charlotte, and today my talk on the theme Outside the Lines is going to be divided into two parts. The first half is going to be focused on my windy path I've taken to get into design. I'm often that person who gets wheeled out to speak to work experience students, as my haphazard approach to my career gives people comfort that they can try stuff and figure things out as they go along. And the second part will focus on Saboteur, the independent brand studio I work at now, who do things a bit differently. So there's a different elephant in this room. To address the elephant in the room head on, I am not a designer. So there are some amazing creatives here today on the lineup, but my specialism, as was said, is project management. There's various names for that role in different agencies, account management, client services, but ultimately I bridge the gap between client and studio team. I manage projects and relationships. So let's start from the beginning. This is a slide mocked up as my bedroom wall in the 90s. I had some very clear ideas of what I wanted to be when I grew up. A firefighter in the day, a background dancer on top of the pops in the evening, and a part-time doctor to my teddy bears. Reflecting on this, when I was writing this talk, I noticed those attributes actually do show up in project management. So firefighting, it is a term used a lot by project managers. Lots of curveballs are sent your way, either from clients or the internal team. And as a project manager, you have to put out the fires, adapt, find solutions, and restore calm. Examples of daily firefighting include changes of brief, budget, direction, deadlines, just to name a few. I said that's daily, it's like hourly, but yeah. Background dancer. So I never really wanted to be at the front of the stage. This is hideous. But supporting the background work is what I wanted to do. Still creating something, but I'm very happy for someone else to be the star. You can see that parallels quite well with facilitating designers and strategists. And doctor. To teddy bears, but whatever. I'm there to listen and help with the design process. So to make sure the team is happy and healthy, to remove stress, and to look after my colleagues. So after realizing most people only did one job, I then decided I'd be an artist, and that was that. Once I got my A-levels, I went to do a foundation course, and after that, I studied fine art at Bath University. Even that wasn't straightforward. I started as a painter, then was rapidly told I couldn't paint. So I moved to sculpture. I created installations using building materials inspired by brutalist architecture. I enjoyed coordinating exhibitions with my friends, and after graduating with a first-class degree, I moved to London thinking an artist's life's for me, only to immediately fall on my arse as I had no money and no connections. With no idea what to do next, I started working in an architect's practice as a receptionist. I applied because I thought architecture was interesting. It was probably a strange interview. I spent most of it talking about buildings I liked rather than the actual role I was applying for. The architect's practice created blocks of flats and social housing, and surrounded by creatives, I found my first home. My time with the architects was fun. They were supportive and kind and threw fantastic parties. I learnt from them I loved working with people, organising people, and took immense pride in making sure the pen store was fully stocked and black coffee flowed. That's the architect's fuel. I worked at the architects Monday to Friday and then took an extra job in an art gallery every weekend. This was a graduate art gallery, and I believed it was a way for me to keep the artist dream alive, as well as finding myself and my friends' representation. Unfortunately, all I was free labour. And the long hours standing on doors, taking coats at art gallery openings led to no one noticing me, really. The architects did not really offer a room for progression, so I decided to leave both jobs behind, get a weekend back, and try something new. So I found a job in client services for a fine art publishers in Chelsea. I think at the time, the only reason I applied for this job was because it had fine art in the title. I had no idea what publishing was or that part of it, the role. This father and son business prided themselves on a really old school operating model. It was the first and only place I had to get to grips with a fax machine. All orders were taken over the phone, written down and faxed to the warehouse. I realised in this role, it was being close to the art and the artists and working with my clients that I enjoyed the most. Providing an excellent client experience was imperative and helped me truly understand the phrase, the customer is always right. It was always a place that made me feel quite anxious, mainly because of exacting standards from the directors. A family business is a very different dynamic, but also the complexity of working between artists, their rights and contracts, again, for reproduction of artworks, large global clients ordering thousands of units and faxing orders to the warehouse to print and distribute on demand. The best part was talking to my regular clients, a real oasis of calm in the hectic process of it all. I left the fine art publishers to work back in East London in an interiors company. I miss being around materials, and in this hipster interior design warehouse, I was back with wood, tiles and paint. But I was selling them to the likes of Soho House and other high-end interior designers. I went on a paint mixing course, so ended up being the chief paint mixer for bespoke print paint colours. I learned how to look after encaustic tiles produced in Spain. The wood was always my favourite though. It was reclaimed with wonderful stories and knots and twists. Storytelling was integral to the successful sales experience, and I honed this skill while working there. I left the interiors company for my first branding agency job. My friend's partner was design director and hired me as an account director with no experience. To this day, I can't really believe my luck with this. There were 4 of us in an awesome little studio in Bleeding Heart Yard in Farringdon. We collaborated with other studios, and I started to feel like I'd found my place. My colleagues were my friends. We hung out at work, after work, at the weekends. It was a lovely place to be, and there was a really creative community in that area at that time. I was doing everything from new business, accounting, project management, pitching, website testing, and populating in something I had no vocabulary for. But we had great clients, they were kind, and were looking for a boutique experience. I set up processes and figured out what kind of project manager I was by myself. I wanted to collaborate with the whole team and soak up everything I could. The problem was the business was always precarious. We weren't making much profit, so we're always just like one job away from not making enough to cover wages. And when I was made redundant, my biggest challenge was finding another agency with a no-siloed approach. I went to a luxury branding agency. They were slightly larger. When I joined, I was the 10th person, and they attracted good talent and interesting clients. My favourite client was by far Nye Timber, mainly for the bottle of wine at Christmas. The reason I left was really down to wanting to see if a larger agency would give me something I'd been craving since the architects: structure and stability. Now this is the COVID black hole. I left the luxury branding agency at a time when most agencies were struggling and furloughing staff, and joined the civil service, working for an internal government design agency. They sat under the Ministry of Justice, but served all government departments with their comms. An interesting place to be during COVID, the work was mainly report-based. We produced a lot of documentation which fed into the daily briefings and slide decks we all saw in the pandemic. I realised the importance of knowing your team and feeling part of something. COVID really ruined that experience for me. The team was huge, and it was difficult to build relationships as we were all fully remote. They had everything else in theory: meaningful work, an inclusive workforce, championed diversity, great benefits, but I just felt something was missing. Also, a lot of the work was focused on annual reports, which did not float my boat. So from all of these experiences, this is the list of attributes I wanted for my next role: to organise and work with people, to find a role that allows me to tell stories, find somewhere with no silos, follow great talent, love my team, and work for an inclusive, diverse company. It was kind of like a weird dating profile I wrote down. I found all of this and more at Saboteur. Ooh. There we go. So as I mentioned, Saboteur is an independent design studio on a mission to set brands free. It has a team of 26, and I started 3 years ago as Saboteur number 10. The first meeting with Saboteur was amazing. I met all the team. They didn't grill me on what blockbuster projects I'd worked on or how big my clients and their profits were, but just spoke to me to find out if we got on. It was the first time where I felt that immediate connection at interview. Usually your nerves are whizzing around too much for you to actually remember or enjoy an interview. But I came off the call with the founders knowing about their aspirations for their new business and believed in their vision. During the 3 years at Saboteur, we've gained B Corp status, almost tripled in size, and still have that small agency vibe due to the company culture and transparency. So I'm going to take you through a little snapshot of what makes Saboteur Saboteur now. So firstly, personality. We are all allowed to have our own personalities. You are all probably used to the structure like this in agencies and how it feels to sit right at the bottom of this hierarchy, wondering how to move up and what that means if you do. More bureaucracy, more rules. At Saboteur, we are more in a flat structure. We pick our descriptive names and our colours in our first week, and I am there, the smiling Saboteur. And there's no structure in how this is kind of displayed. So directors, senior, junior, various crafts, various disciplines, we're all kind of on the same level. Anyone can come to the table with ideas, and this is in fact encouraged. Reality. There's more to the world than design. Sometimes we sit in this bubble and don't look beyond our day-to-day at anything else. At Saboteur, we have a 45-minute session every Thursday called Reality Check, where we talk about any topic. So that can be current affairs, fun topics, personal topics. You can see a few here. Have you ever felt alone? What are your hidden talents? What's the biggest risk you've ever taken? These conversations bring us closer together and also help us understand each other. No silos. We have the 3 usual crafts: strategy, design, project management, but the ideas can come from anyone. No silos means we are all in the service of the idea. By collaborating across crafts, we expand our ability to find a better answer and for the output to be richer. An example of cross-craft collaboration is the work that we've done for Their World. They're a children's charity that works to end the education crisis affected by 260 million children worldwide. We've worked with them for years, but started on a campaign focusing on early years education on the run-up to the UN General Assembly last year. It uses the idea of championing the children's voice to draw attention to the issue. The alphabet was created by children across continents and used so they could advocate for themselves, asking world leaders to listen, act, and take note through direct messaging, and for children to call out injustice and empty promises. Here you'll see some examples of communications, as well as real-world examples of the reach of the campaign. This involved all the saboteur crafts working together. The process was not linear. Conversation. So we discuss all major decisions as a team. Should we pitch for this? What's the best idea? How do we grow? And many more. These decisions are not just made by a select group, they're made by everybody. Our away days allow us to bond, but also speak openly about where we are as an agency, what we could improve, and where we'd like to be in the coming year. These team sessions help us build relationships, have those hard conversations, but also be transparent. Holiday. So what we do is difficult and can result in burnout. It's important to have time to rest. We all know this feeling when you're desperate for a couple of days off, but you have no holiday allowance left. At Saboteur, we have no limit on holiday, so we take what we need as long as the team left behind can cover. This allows us to travel the world, work remotely, and bring back to the studio experiences that influence our work and gives us a fresh outlook. And then finally, sabotage. At the core of our agency is the sentiment of sabotage. We want to do things differently. Our directors, Nick, Alex, and Paul, read Brave New World when they were starting out and were inspired by the themes. They thought, what if Saboteur could set brands free? To do this, we asked two questions of our clients. What do you want to be free from, and what do you want to be free to do or be? By starting every project this way, we are clear on the aspirations and objectives and have a North Star, which has been clearly articulated by the team. So that takes you right through my career and gives you a taste of Saboteur, and I hope there's something interesting and some helpful nuggets in there you can take away. The main thing to remember is to keep moving forward, and even if your path is not straight, keep trying stuff and adjusting as you go along. That's me.